Everybody's secrets inspire all of my scenes. I write in all of my fantasies and I die in all of my dreams.
Open Mike Eagle is a hip-hop artist that has been very intriguing to kind of dig into. He's very conceptual, he's very humorous, to quote the opening track off his LP Dark Comedy.
For those who haven't heard of me, I'm bad at sarcasm, so I work in absurdity.
Open Mike Eagle deconstructs society in a very humorous fashion, but he kind of does it by exaggerating a lot of things and creating these incredibly weird scenarios.
Yeah, I'm in the skies like the white guy. Motherfuck yo Spotify, my mind is an iPod.
Or you have some more like rant-ish kind of songs like Dark Comedy Late Show, a track where Mike Eagle just goes on a massive tangent about so many things, political, social, musical.
And North Korea's got practice missiles, and I still check Yahoo cause we both got attachment issues.
And I love the way that Open Mike Eagle kind of functions on this typical Chicago rap punchline based writing of his rap verses, where the impact of a lot of his lines lie directly in the punchlines, where you kind of hear a certain joke and you think, oh, that's quite goofy. Yeah, that was quite charming. But on Brick Body Kids Don't Daydream, I think that Mike Eagle, while he still has this strong sense of humor in the way he tackles subjects, it's kind of like retracted back a little bit, because this album here is definitely his most politically charged one to date, and most blatantly so. On a first listen, I thought it was a little bit underwhelming that Mike Eagle wasn't quite emphasizing that comedic side of him, because what I liked about his previous projects was the fact that he could cover a certain subject matter, but do it by firing out punchline after punchline after punchline. Listen to a track like Trickeration, or as I said, Dark Comedy Late Show. However, actually kind of reconsidering what I initially thought about the lyrics on this new album of his, I find them more beautifully poignant, because while he still has the sense of humor on tracks like TLDR, which definitely reads to me like some sort of version 2 of Trickeration, and in the best way possible, because I love Trickeration, and I love how he just keeps firing out punchlines and punchlines and punchlines to present an overall point about indifference towards certain issues. But on other tracks, Mike Eagle is being incredibly verbose, quite emotionally potent. I love how on tracks such as legendary Iron Hood, or on the second track, How Could Anybody Feel at Home, and to carry on, there are plenty of other tracks here like Hymnal, where Mike Eagle is definitely being very direct about his points, and there's kind of this weird deadpan nonchalant delivery that makes things sound almost like hoping that these issues will be fixed in the future is a bit of a lost cause at this point.
Singing like a church song, like an old time prayer from a dead man written on a notebook, draw with an ink pen, like it doesn't even matter if we broke, goddamn it, it's the first time.
And that's really sad, because a lot of this album is conceptually based on the closing of a public home which housed many families but was demolished in 2007, forcing the families that lived in that home to kind of disperse and kind of find a new life. What Mike Eagle does is, on several tracks, is kind of present the song from the point of view of the house itself, as if the house was an actual being, and was just noting his observations. I love the line that kind of personifies a lot of the disheveled appliances and furniture in the house, and kind of transfers that to a greater meaning. Give an example that might make that sound a little bit better. And the oven is on and the coil's exposed and we're pulling the door like we did it before, and now we're trying to deal with heat that we shouldn't absorb. I do love the production. I love how Mike Eagle and co kind of take these samples, these jazz samples, these rock samples, and they kind of chop and screw them and kind of make them into really anomalous, oddly shaped beats, kind of reminiscent of a Quelle Chris album, for instance. But Mike Eagle's always been doing this, and I think on this album they do sound very beautiful, especially on a track like How Could Anybody Feel at Home, with those flutes all over the instrumental. I thought those were extremely beautiful. Hip-hop needs more flutes. Let's not just rely on Future, okay? I love the track about daydreaming in the project, where the chorus kind of credits those less fortunate children that still maintain a level of optimism and kind of creativity as an innocent child, shouting out the ghetto children making code words, fighting dragons, hacking networks. There is this glimmer of hope there that I found really touching, but it's only until Brick Body Complex where we start to see this urgency behind the message on this album. Mike Eagle pretty much blatantly says he wants to be known as Michael Eagle, subverting the idea that he should be boxed into stereotypes or labels just because of the way he is, just because of his identity traits. He also does a really good job of relating this to the building itself, again, kind of reinforcing that idea of personifying himself as the building. This album really does kind of function almost like a cartoon of sorts, although it is a cartoon that is kind of balancing the poignant, the sad, the very depressing reality with these moments of absurdity and cartooniness. On Happy Wasteland Day, Mike addresses how the mistreatment of black people in America has become a little too normalized for racial tension and race issues to just be something that should be glossed over. And it's the final track, My Auntie's Building, that pretty much sinks in that idea of the true impact of demolishing this building that was housing many families. Mike Eagle pretty much says his grandmother had a whole load of children that lived in this building, and now the building's demolished. Where are they going to go? What is their future? Are they going to be safe out there with no place to go? Towards the end of the album, you pretty much hear the sonic equivalent of this building being brought down with distortion and static and just this crunchy. I think this album does a fantastic job of really putting into musical form the conceptual ideas of this building, but also things like identity and race and the way political issues are addressed nowadays. Indifference, even stoicism on the track about no selling. I think this is a very good album here. I think it's got a lot of color. I think it's very cleverly framed. Even if the sense of humor is pulled back a little bit, it doesn't make this album any less endearing, challenging a lot of these issues in a very creative way, using his absurdist writing and painting of scenarios and certain characters. Musically, this thing doesn't disappoint as well. I love how the instrumentals sound on this album. This is always the case for an Open Mike Eagle project. This is no different. I'm giving this album an 8 out of 10.